welcome back to the SBP Podcast Mobile Filmmaking. I'm your host, Susie Botello, and you are listening to episode 156. Some of the things that have changed in this world involve you, me, the world around us, business, all these things. There are a lot of things that are happening, and one of them is a topic that we're going to discuss with our panelists in Fade Into Film. So welcome back to another session of Fade Into Film. Our panelists are Levi Austin Morris, Ryan McDonald, Joey Min, and Jason Rivera. And me, of course, as your host. I lead a discussion into self-branding. The keyword, what branding means, right, is it has this consumer businessy connotation to it. You should know where I'm coming from with this so that you don't think I'm telling you to create a product out of yourself. This mentality and awareness that if you create things, if you create art and projects and films and things that are going out into the public, the world today will look behind the curtain to see who created these things. You want them to find things about you, and you want to have at least some control over what they see about who you are. Because knowing who you are is great, but when people are out there looking for you, they're going to form their own opinions about who you are. So it's probably a good idea to at least show them your best self. I did not want to attach my name to my film festival because I was, it's not about me. It's about you. It's about you, the people who are making films with your phones and all of that. And, it was about you and not about me. But the film festival itself was created by me. And there was a lot about me that went behind creating the film festival in the way that it was. For example, the mission, right? Democratizing, filmmaking. That had a lot to do with my own personal experiences and the things that I wanted to be better in the world. That was a personal thing for me. My passion for mobile film and for indie film comes to being my passion for the people who are creating mobile and indie films, not just because of the films themselves. And so when we listen to people speak and say certain keywords and things like that, especially nowadays, they can come with this connotation of, it's about consumerism and, being corporate and all these things. And yeah, some of these keywords started out like that. But you have full control over how you turn things that you attach to yourself. When I talk about self-branding, I'm talking about you exposing who you are in the way that you want to. It's a decision to self-brand. I think it'll help you with distribution and with everything else that you're doing and that you want, and you want some sort of success. I think it'll help you a lot, no matter what you do. But I think that's a decision. It's a personal decision whether you want to do that self-branding. I think it's important, though, that whether you want to do it or not, people are going to look to see who you are, because that's what happens today. Social media, Google, all those things give people tools to look behind the curtains and see who is creating this and who is this person. They're going to go out there in the middle of the desert and start looking through all the cracks and crannies of the desert. They're going to be lifting on the rocks and, sifting through the sands of the desert. And they're going to be looking to see what they can attach, because especially when you're creating art and when you're storytelling through film, whether you're writing, all those things, people want to know about you. And as soon as you put yourself out there and your work out there, I should say, publicly, people want to know who you are. And so it's important that you're aware of that. And when I talk about self-branding, that's what I'm telling you to do. Look inside yourself, see who you are, take the things that you like and favor them and embrace who you are in that way. And you should understand that not everybody is going to like you. Not everybody is going to love you. But it's important that you see yourself for who you are, that you like yourself, that you love yourself, and that when you look in the mirror, if you see something that you don't like, to remember, not everybody sees me like this. Self-branding is, in this conversation, when I bring it up, it's not the consumerism corporate thing. It's not a product that I'm telling you to make out of yourself. And I'm definitely not telling you that you should fake who you are. Be yourself, but just be aware that you are a public name as soon as you create something with your name that is public. And if you want to stay anonymous, you can do that. It's just very hard to stay anonymous forever when you're creating things. You may change your mind at some point and say, you know what? People really like what I'm making. I want to put my name behind that. I want people to know it's me. And so just remember that. And for me personally, thinking about myself as, in self-branding, not as a brand, but self-branding myself has given me a little more confidence in creating this podcast, opening up to you and showing you who I am. And that's important. So that's it. That's a long intro for a fade into film, but I thought it was important before we talk to our panelists and go into this discussion that you know this. And now let's go and let's talk to our panelists. And let's see what they think. And when I say let's, we've already had this conversation, but not with you, not together. So let's go.
We are Fade Into Film.
So, hey, everybody, we've got Joey Min, Jason Rivera, Levi Austin Morris, and Ryan McDonald all are here ready to fade into film. How are you guys doing?
Woo!
Good.
Good.
Let's not cheer. Yay!
No, turn up our gains and turn it down and walk away.
And walk away.
And walk away, guys. Hey, we've got some great updates from you guys. We've got, as you already know, for the last 2 episodes, I've been telling you about how Joey won all these awards at HBO. And he kept saying it was like, it was embarrassing. Like,
it looked
what
rigged.
was it that you said? They looked rigged.
There was like 12 categories and we won 9 of them.
That's so amazing.
So that's like, after the first 2, oh my God. Then the third, it's like, okay. Then after the 5th time, it's like no one was really clapping anymore. So,
and well,
I didn't back away
time,
from the microphone. Sorry, Susie.
No. You guys are gonna make me have to edit this like crazy.
Sure am.
All right. So one of the things that we're gonna talk about, one of the updates, is Levi rigged the. No, he did not. He won all sorts of awards over the weekend. Levi, tell us about the festival, the film. Well, a little bit.
Sure.
About all that and all these awards you won.
Well,
you won.
No, hold on. Let me clarify because you're painting it much grander than it was.
A rosier picture.
Yeah, we were in 2 festivals this past weekend. We were in the Indie Horror Film Fest in Chicago, and we were in the PopCon Film Festival in Indiana. And in the Indie Horror Film Festival, we were nominated for 3 awards. It was Best Director, Best Cinematography, and Best Actress for my lead actress. We did not win any of those, but we were nominated, so that was cool. And then for the PopCon Film Festival, we ended up winning Best Horror Film, so that was really exciting. So, yeah.
And Allison, who was the cinematographer?
Me and my friend Emerson.
Emerson. So
Yeah.
Emerson and Allison, congratulations, by the way, as well. And congratulations to you, Levi.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I think we're still going to say that you won all the awards at the festival.
Let's not, because that,
No, I think that was awesome. I saw the trophy. I love the trophy.
Yeah, it's super fun. It's a light up trophy. It's got like this, because it's a PopCon is like a pop culture convention in their 10th year in Indiana. And it's like a small Comic-Con. I think they had like 30,000.
It's a toy. The trophy is a
but
toy.
the trophy
it's
is like
the
a big
Blue
plastic
Hulk or
toy, and
something.
then there's like the bottom lights up. So it's fun. It's a fun trophy.
Can
I really
you
like
bring
it.
it when you come to San Diego so I can play with it? 'Cause, like,
Maybe.
I love stuff like that.
That's funny.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And then also Ryan has some stuff that he wants to share. Well, that I would like for him to share. Ryan, tell us about the festival that you're running.
Yeah. So one of my top favorite films, probably in the top 3, is going to be The Big Lebowski. And I'm not alone in that one. As it turns out, there's many people who really like that movie. And years ago, probably about 10 years ago, I was trying to get a Lebowski Fest to happen here in Ogden, where I'm at, Ogden, Utah. And I had even reached out to the original Lebowski Fest people who were running that organization, and they at the time just didn't see it as being viable for them to come out. So being on a board of directors for the Egyptian Theater Foundation, for the Paris Egyptian Theater in Ogden, I was able to talk that group of people into letting us create our own. And so for the last 10 years, more or less, we had to skip 1 year because of COVID. But for the last 10 years, I've been hosting the Ogden Big Lebowski Festival. So it's going to be November 11th this year. I believe it is the only Lebowski Fest on this side of the U.S. At this point. And we have costume contests, prize giveaways. We're going to have vendors this year that will be selling merchandise. We have a local artist who will be creating a poster for us, and we'll be auctioning away the artwork as well. It's always a fun time. We have people show up as the Dude and Donnie, and we've had some pretty wild costumes before in the past, so it's a good fun. And then of course we screen the movie.
Yes. Have you
Do
had
you ever
any?
have like Jeff Bridges just kind of show up?
I haven't had the Jeff Bridges show up now, but the dream is out there for that. The closest thing we've had is there's the character. The character's name is Liam. I don't think that he has a spoken line, but it's John Turturro's buddy in the film. There's a few moments where because Turturro is when he's upset about the schedule changing from Saturday to Wednesday, he's like, "'Cause Liam and me, we're gonna fuck you up," and so the guy right next to him is Liam. And we had that actor come out before.
That's awesome.
And spoke about the film and how he got into the movie and things like that. So.
That's awesome.
That's very cool.
Awesome. Yeah. So we'll throw you'll share the link with us so that we can add it or I'll grab it. I'm sure you've posted it on social media and add it to the notes for anybody who's out there who wants to go, and they can also meet Ryan and some of the other things that he does other than study film.
I'll be there.
Yeah. Hey, okay, so I wanted to jump right into a couple of our topics here. One of our topics that I wanted to jump into here with, I wanted Levi to start this off because Levi, you're in the union. Which union are you in, or are you in both?
I'm in SAG-AFTRA.
You're in SAG-AFTRA, of course, because you're an actor. And so why don't you share a little bit about why indie filmmakers and smartphone filmmakers should not refrain from filmmaking during the strike?
Sure. I think that... the main reason is because SAG has actually put out a notice that there's a sort of an interim agreement that with indie filmmakers that they can continue production if they get the specific contract or whatever. So I think it's important. I mean, it is important because we need to continue creating art, for one, but for two, like it sort of weakens the sort of power that the studios and executives have, because it's giving power to the artists and it's taking power away from the large studios. And that's sort of what SAG is kind of asking everybody to do. So to continue creating, to continue telling your stories, in a way
it's
that...
good for the cause.
Yeah,
right?
it is. It's good for the cause. So, yeah. But also, like, SAG has also... Because this is something that I was... And it's a little bit change of subject, but it still is in line with the subject. To not boycott watching things or going to the movies or anything like that. SAG has been very vocal about, we should still be going to the theater to support these films that have already been made. We should still be watching our favorite shows, because if we don't, that's another way to sort of give ammunition to the executives in the studios who will say, well, people didn't watch it. So we need to continue to support the artists and our favorite shows and our favorite, filmmakers during the strike.
Yeah, Levi, I know that during the, when it all started, of course, this started way before it started, but before the strikes, there was such a confusion with people about that, about making the films, supporting the independent filmmakers, supporting the fact that consumers were going out and watching films or not.
Yeah.
It was a little chaotic and confusing.
Yeah, I mean, I even had to, because I wasn't sure at the beginning when the strike first started, I had to reach out to SAG and find out if it was acceptable for me to attend the festivals, because we're kind of in the middle of our festival run. So we still have, I had the two festivals this past weekend, and we're still waiting to hear back from like 39. So I needed to find out if it was acceptable for me as an artist to attend, or if I had to sort of attend under like, oh, I'm just the director, or I'm just, whatever. But they informed me, because it is not a studio project, that I'm allowed to, as long as the festival is not sponsored by one of the what is the acronym? I think it's like AANTP. Yeah. As long as it's not sponsored by them, we are allowed to attend festivals. So, yeah.
Well, we have no problem with that.
Yeah, exactly. Most of the festivals,
yeah.
I mean, I feel like only massive festivals at this point have, so like not the indie film circuit so much. So, yeah.
It's also, actually, Jason, what is your take on this?
Well, I would echo everything that Levi just said, 100%. And I think, obviously for me, there is no union. There's no composers union. Never has been. That being said, my brother and his wife are in the Writers Guild, and so I've had a kind of front seat to the whole thing. They're very involved with the WGA. I've been out picketing with them and supporting them. And I'm so happy to do it and to support them. And but at the same time, I'm scoring an indie film right now. I'm in the middle of it, and this is the third indie project that I've scored since the writer strike started.
Wow.
So, I think there was definitely a minute where I certainly paused and thought about it, especially because this involves my family, this strike.
Yeah.
But the way I kind of wrapped my head around it was, we need to be continuously creating.
Yeah.
And these projects I'm working on are not, Max or, whatever, Netflix projects. So these are independent projects. And I kind of, once I wrapped my head around that, I just thought, well, this is actually kind of an exciting time,
maybe a resurgence of the indie artist.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of energy and a lot of excitement. And I remember towards the beginning of the writer's strike, I worked on 2 films, and it was just also this sort of thing where just people in the industry suddenly had more time on their hands, almost like COVID again. so they had extra time to work on scripts and, pull projects together. So I don't know. I think in that sense, if you're making creative, independent work, then, you're keeping your creativity flowing and keeping ideas flowing. And, I think making films, it keeps us going, in a lot of ways. And so we need that outlet, that creative outlet, despite the strikes.
And it's still...
sorry,
go ahead. No, I was just going to say, it's still a little confusing because... I started submitting to film festivals last probably November, maybe October. So it's been a journey as far as the submission process. But even there's confusion right now because one of the film festivals that I submitted to recently sent out a letter and said we're withdrawing this year's festival to stand in solidarity with the strike. And so they basically Film Freeway granted me a credit of how much that festival submission fee was, so that I could submit to another festival. But it was kind of a bummer because I sort of now have this anxiety around I'm waiting to hear back from 39 film festivals. Are any others going to do that? Are any others going to decide to cancel their and
I wonder what would make that decision. I could tell you from my perspective that would not be something that I would do, because
it was an
supporting
LA
the
festival.
Independent. Yeah, we're supporting the indie film makers.
Yeah.
And so for us, it would be a huge mistake to do that.
And it was just a disappointment because that was one that I'm not saying there's a lot of festivals that I submit to and I'm I don't know if I'll get into this one, but I'm still going to take the shot, but this is one that I was I think I could get into this one. And so it's just, it's kind of a bummer. Yeah.
How do you feel about that, Ryan?
Well, I have a different viewpoint from it than the other two, as I'm not in either of the unions and I don't have any family members who are.
Well, and also pulling out a festival, also pulling out from this.
Yeah, I agree with you. It was. I don't think it's the best move. Especially when you have the unions who are also allowing. You're able to, with certain permissions or paperwork, to continue to operate and work. So, if there's already a system in play to allow indie filmmakers to continue working, then why not take advantage of that?
Right. And to promote.
Yeah, and then also help promote everybody's projects. We as filmmakers, we make movies for many reasons, but one of them, the idea is that it will eventually be seen by an audience.
Yeah.
Right.
And
you network. You also network during the festival and
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, that's how Levi and I and Susie, you and I, that's how we've met.
Yeah. And Jason,
right.
that's how I met Jason.
And James and and James and Caroline from the UK.
James and Caroline as well.
We're still working with them, and we speak to them often. And so we're actually talking about potentially having a screening for one of their movies here.
Hell yeah!
In Salt Lake City.
And so, that's awesome.
Yeah. So there's a massive networking opportunity when you go to the festivals, and that's disheartening. Again, I don't agree with the decision to take it away. I think you're standing in solidarity, but at the same time, it's are we hurting the right people or helping the right people?
Yeah, I think there's a way to stand in solidarity and say we stand in solidarity, but still sort of elevate the work of the independent artists.
Yes, and just as a founder and director of a film festival myself, as you are as well, Ryan, we don't know the circumstances, behind the scenes of why they made that decision. So we're just making assumptions, by comparing them to our situation and saying it would be a mistake for us. We don't know exactly what. We can't imagine it, though, unfortunately, what the circumstances.
And I'm sure. I'm sure it was a very difficult decision for them.
Oh yeah.
But I think in large part, I think they made the call probably before SAG had sort of come up with the rules surrounding everything. So I don't know, and I'm just projecting, but
could be.
Yeah, being an LA based thing, it's probably a lot more complicated. Maybe, I don't know.
Ryan and Levi both of you know when in 2020 in March when the I almost called him the mayor when we had that whole on the 19th and we had like 40 days or something right to go and they said that's it, we're done, and we were so ready and for me to just go, all right, we're moving this way, we're doing that, but never was it on my mind that, oh, we're going to have to cancel.
Yeah,
you
and
know?
I was I think there were two festivals that the T had gotten into, one in New York and one yours at that time. And I remember being like, oh God, what's going to happen? And the fact that both festivals, because I know a lot of festivals did cancel, but both of you quickly diverted and were like, we'll make this a virtual festival. It was a bummer to not be able to go in person, but it was exciting to be able to, like, I remember sitting I was staying at the house that we filmed Paralysis, and I sat on the couch and I just watched the festival for a large part of the day, you know? Yeah.
And you were in it. You were still
and I was in it.
and
Like,
interacting it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And I think that this is what happens during times like this, and we're feeling it in so many different ways outside of the film, but we're talking about the film industry and the entertainment industry, and basically we're being tested in so many different ways. Which way, how far can you bend, you know, and how creative can you get, and how do you meet challenges like this, and you know, your attitude and your ability, because you know, there are some very big corporations out there that will literally freak out while a smaller independent little company can thrive during times like this, sort of like artists, right?
Yeah. Giving power back to the people instead of those in charge, you know?
Power to the people.
Power to the people.
Yeah. Can we do that in sync? No, I'm just kidding. Go through that.
I mean, counting is already hard enough in sync.
Joe is like, oh my God. All right. So, Joey, do you have a perspective on this?
Well, it's just that me also, like my group, we're not really part of, you know, we're not union, right? So, and, you know, obviously doing everything, being really a self-distributing independent filmmaking group through YouTube, it's I guess we see it differently. I think from my perspective, I think what I'd like to see are all of these YouTubers that talk about, you know, like movies, you know, big movies. Maybe now when they can't talk about it or something, if they really want to help out, like, you know, I think the craft, instead of, you know, just peddling to bigger companies so they get paid more.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, they could like do reviews about independent films, right?
Yes.
Things that people would never see, just to you know, signal boost. Yeah. And I think that would really help, like the, you know, just even local filmmakers, you know, somebody could be like down their street making a movie, you know, like, hey, you know, this guy, it's my neighbor, he does this thing. It's not, you know, it's not $500 million, but he made a movie, and you know, for the technology that he has, that's pretty good. You know, stuff like that. It would be nice to see as a, you know, a shift on YouTube.
Yeah. That's also good, because part of this is actually a little bit of a segue into the next topic that I wanted to discuss. But one of the things that the films need outside of production, in post-production, outside of editing and packaging it and getting it all ready to go, is distribution. And distribution requires you to basically start marketing it. And I think, Joey, you know, YouTubers can help each other out with marketing
definitely.
films.
I mean, there's a lot of different ways now too. You know, I think I was talking to Levi about it like the last time. I think, you know, indie film rights, you know, something like that, to self-distribute your own projects, so you can get, you know, obviously 100% of whatever you get, right? But obviously, you know, people, maybe like a lot of people that don't realize when it comes to like the business thing, like now that where I'm trying to go is where, you know, we make our big films and also distribute it on ourselves, is that to market it, you need a budget for that too, right? Like, it's like you can only reach organically, you know, what you already have built organically. to reach outside of that, there is another set of work, right? So
Yeah.
obviously, I think for the next thing that we're doing, we're probably going to have a little bit of budget to hire people to like help us do the marketing. And I know that's not available to everybody. If people are just making very small films, I mean, like I think it's like I made a feature film for $5,000 like a couple years ago, and it's distributed and it's on Amazon, it's on Tubi, it's all these places, but I'm only able to do it that because of all of the skill set that I've developed thus far.
Yeah.
Right. So it would be harder for people like, trying to get into it that hasn't built up their audience or something, if like they're just a creator and they're not very much good at like social media marketing and stuff like that. So yeah, so that's why I think, with the landscape of what's happening now, if there are other YouTube influencers or like video reviewers or movie reviewers that could also shift and also, put into their rotation of, talking about smaller films that could, signal boost. I think that would really help us, everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's part of the community, the art community in a way. And I know that a lot of YouTubers don't reference themselves as, artists. A lot of them are, there's a lot of like the travel guys, right? And things like that would say, well, I'm not an artist. I'm just making YouTube videos and upping my numbers and becoming an influencer in the travel industry. But for a lot of other ones, they are artists. And sometimes the reason they started out on YouTube is because of their art and to have a place to display their art, to distribute it, and to also market their art and end up marketing themselves, right?
Yeah. So
that's why I think, it's called self-branding or something like that, but it's you're branding yourself as the human behind the work that you do. And whether you have a company or you're creating a film, but I want to stay on the film part. A lot of times you start, and we know in the film industry, there's a lot of times when we start working on a film, but then it never really comes together. It doesn't get done. So you move on to the next one. But now you've been marketing that film, that title. You've created a Facebook page for it, an Instagram page for it, and it's all around this one project. And then it doesn't come together, and then they just sit there forever, just lingering, just floating into space. They've got a limited amount of followers, and it's not active anymore. And now the person behind that, though, has to start over, with a new project. And I believe that if you brand yourself, right, that then anything that you do, and it becomes even easier to move from one project to the next, because what you have now is people who are, they're following you, right? They're interested in you and in the work that you do, and you're naturally going to be creating things that are connected to each other anyways. Like say Steven Spielberg, right? When you say you're having a conversation with somebody, I mean, you can rattle off all the movies, right? But everybody knows, for the most part, yeah, Steven Spielberg made those. So when Steven Spielberg's name comes up somewhere, it's like, oh, what movie is Steven Spielberg making next? And that catches the attention of people and automatically starts making that new movie that nobody's even heard about a success because Steven Spielberg made it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think though with that, I think the way that the world has sort of, and maybe this is a naive thing to say, but I feel like things have shifted. Like I feel like at one point, it wasn't so much about branding. I feel like it was about, the product or the story or the whatever. But I think with internet culture, it has become more about branding, and it really is, and I struggle because I feel like people are always like, well, what genre do you direct? What genre film do you do? You know, and I feel like I'm sort of trying to be put in a box. And so I struggle with the whole branding thing. Like, my brand is me. It's Levi Austin Morris, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah. And so, like, that's my brand. And then my stories tend to come from, I mean, the reason in my production company I chose Buried Child Productions is because there's an inner child in all of us that sort of is, you know, like constantly growing or needing nurturing, you know, and it's like the sort of the traumas or the whatever, you know. So like I feel like that's sort of my brand, I guess, but like I still struggle with the brand and I still struggle with the business side of it because I am an artist first, and the stories that I want to tell are vastly different, you know.
Because your brand right now, as it's developing, right?
Yeah.
At the same time you're growing, it's all fluid.
Yeah.
And generally speaking, it is always fluid. You have, and I think that's part of the branding feature, the
It's just
self-branding feature.
Yeah. I think
that you can change and shift and create things wherever you want to go, and you don't have to worry about being locked in a box of that one project.
And that's why I refuse, because I do think that I do think to a certain degree the industry does like to, like, I think Steven Spielberg, Martin Scorsese, Quentin Tarantino, they all sort of have like a get out of jail free card, you know, because they are the big names that they are. But I think like James Wan, for instance, I don't think anybody will ever look at him as anything other than a horror director. And that's a little disappointing, because I mean, maybe that's all he wants to do. And I think he's a great director in that regard. But I'd be curious to see something else, you know, like I think Paul Feig is a great comedy director, and he's had some films that are not comedy. And I think that it's a little confusing to people. So I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I'm helping the argument, but I still struggle with the brand.
I think also the curiosity is also attractive, though.
Yeah.
You know, that people that follow you, the people that know you, people that have seen what your work is, would definitely look your way when you say, well, I'm doing something different. Oh, really? What are you doing?
Yeah.
You know?
But it's that kind of like, I mean, like, I agree with James Wan, because like you can even see from his style that it's not just horror. He has like elements of visual physical comedy in there too, right? Mm-hmm. You know, but the same thing. Who's that guy that directed the Annabelle movies that did Shazam?
Oh, David Sandberg.
Yeah,
Daniel.
David Sandberg.
Is it David or Daniel?
David.
It doesn't matter. He's great. I love him.
Right. I love his stuff, right? But even after Shazam 2, you know, he even pointed out that, you know, like, he's not going to do superhero movies.
Yeah, he was like, I can go back to doing indie horror films, you know?
Right.
Like, yeah.
And it's very much obvious that, you know, and I guess the thing that what you're saying too, with like all these big movies, right? Their budget is so incredibly high. Like, I think it's silly to think that everyone could recreate Avenger money every time, all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When even like there's like a Marvel movie, there's like Marvel movies like every month. Yeah. Right. And they cost like, close to, I mean, you know, to break even, they have to like break $500 million. Like that's intense to me, right? Like, how wouldn't it be smarter as a business to actually invest in small town films or like smaller movies?
Yeah. Speaking of that, Joey, why do you think somebody like Steven Soderbergh with an ultimate budget, hands, you know, all he has to do is put his hands out, right? And I want to make a film, and people would just give it to him, you know? Why would he turn around and make mobile films? Why do you think? I think that has a lot to do with branding.
Yeah, I that's something too, though. I think, but there's a lot of pressure when it comes to, because like the higher up you go in terms of, like, say with Marvel, right? Like, just knowing the process of what it is, where they hire independent directors because it's cheaper to just get them to direct your film, because your film is already directed right at the at a pre-production, right? Like, the pre-visualization team already has made the entire film, and all you have to do as a director, I guess, you're just basically another unit person.
Moving parts. You're
but
just
it's your name, it's your brand behind it. You know, Steven Spielberg also shot an iPhone
commercial
music video.
That's what it was.
Right.
Yeah.
I will say though, going back to Soderbergh for a second, and I'm sorry to cut in, Joey. I do think though his brand is pushing the boundaries. Like that has always sort of been Soderbergh's brand, and I think that it sort of fit in with his brand to do a mobile film.
It's the challenge. I've never met a cinematographer that didn't thrive on challenges.
Yeah.
Right. So that's why it's kind of weird when you see these Marvel films. And I get that, there's a lot of money in it and they just want everything to, be as, I guess, already like cemented from the very start. Like if you're hired as a director, what do you really do? Right. You just like, if there's really no input from you as a director, then what did you really do? And I'm not saying like the direct, like that's not me like
they're the most passionate in the
right.
in the group. I mean,
right.
I wrote about this over the weekend on my Substack. I should have a chime. Ching. I wrote about this, and one of the things that I mentioned was how the director is the most passionate one in the production. They can work 24/7. They're all over it. They want they want to see that thing.
Yep.
They want to realize it live, like a magic, like Tinkerbell goes there and you watch it form in front of you. They want that, that's their thing, and they like the challenge, and they can move on. I mean, it's like they don't even need the coffee, really. Of course, they're going to get it, but I'm just saying. That's their thing, and it's even more, I think, important than the money. I think it's the executives that are driving the profits,
Oh yeah, I mean, like that's obvious, right? Like when you have like $500 million on the line, right?
Yeah,
like
they need their money back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm saying, like, I think it wouldn't be smarter for these. I get the $1 million, but like, wouldn't it be just as smart to invest in like, I don't know, I'll put like $100,000 to this film and make, $1 million back.
Yeah.
Like that's very sustainable.
And
that's
I
smarter.
think you should put your name in front of it, though, and not be afraid to stand in front of it and say, this is my, Jason, I know you've got something to say. I'm going to give you, this is a great way to do it. But Jason is not the director in a film, but he can brand himself, right, as the film composer. He's a big part of that film. Everybody is a big part of the film together, but he can also brand himself, right, Jason?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, there's different ways you could do it, too. I also, like Levi, I have a company for all of my music work. It's called Hidden Noise Productions, and that's influenced and inspired by a Marcel Duchamp sculpture instrument that he created. And that kind of alludes to my background in the visual arts, which is how I came up. But I don't really talk about that. It's my name. It's how I put myself out there. It's my name, and I think it's. I kind of mentioned this in one of our previous episodes, where the brand is you, and it's who you are as a person. And, in my case, when you see my last name, you probably think, oh, okay, people have thought I'm Mexican and, all sorts of different things, and that's great. But I actually really enjoy, part of my brand is, the fact that I'm Puerto Rican. And, and I think about this sometimes, like as a kid, it took me forever to figure out, like, to even find any Puerto Rican composers was like so hard. And even now, like, if you look at like the big top film composers, they're almost all men, and it's hard to find at the top levels,
You're right.
composers of color.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, part of my brand is my background, and I think sometimes like it's really important to me not just to have my full name on everything, but also like whenever I can, I mention the fact that I'm Puerto Rican. And part of that is just me thinking like, if there's some kid somewhere that's like, oh my God, there's a Latinx composer out there, not that I'm like super famous or anything, but like,
inspire them.
Yeah, like, oh, if he could do it, I could do it.
Yeah.
And so if I could do that for one person, that's amazing, you know. So even though I don't think of it, I'm not like in the lab, you know, with vials, like trying to come up with this special concoction of, you know, brand.
Well, that's
like,
exactly what I
all.
pictured, though, Jason.
But it's more about just kind of thinking about these things that mean something to you and that are part of the fabric of who you are as a person. And, you know, how can you kind of put those things to the forefront, because, you know, those are the aspects of who you are that will differentiate beyond your ability and your skill and your craft. These personal things will help to differentiate you from other people in your line of work.
Yeah, similarly... sorry, go ahead.
No, say what you will. I just wanted to make sure that I give Jason a shot at this too. I mean, not Jason,
Ryan.
sorry, Ryan.
Yeah. I was just going to say, similarly to, I mean, it's not the same thing, but growing up for me, I didn't see a lot of queer artists sort of at the forefront. And so for me now, I used to fight the sort of, I don't want to play gay characters, and I don't want gay characters in my projects. But I would say within the last probably 8 years, maybe 10 years, I've been like, you know what, like, these are things that I needed to see as a kid, and that I want to inspire, you know, the next queer kid who is like, man, that's what I want to do with my life. So I always have some sort of queer element in my films or my story, because it's important to me and it's part of my identity. And so, yeah, I'm sort of bouncing off of what you were saying, Jason.
The empowerment that comes with mobile filmmaking is part of that. For me, when I first started this, I mean, one of the things that I imagined was this little old man in Afghanistan or something, sitting on a hill and beaming up the little movie, the little documentary that he made or something, to me here in San Diego for me to play it in front of people that he never would have reached, you know. But that is, you know, the diversity aspect is the empowerment that comes with not only with storytelling, but also because storytelling is so connected to diverse populations and society and cultures, you know, and communities. And so I totally love, you know, that you've had several films already in my film festival, and that you're so close by because you can come and you can speak to that.
And they're all very gay.
Yeah. Oh, like what you say super gay.
Super gay.
Ryan, go ahead.
Well, I don't, as far as the branding thing, some of you guys have actually said it better than I could have, and your stories are much more unique than probably my own. I think that there was a conscious choice that I made a while ago that as my kids are kind of getting older, and there's a decision I was like, I don't want to put them like face forward necessarily on the internet.
Right.
Only recently, since my
Sophia,
my oldest daughter Sophia, now that she's been a filmmaker, but it's kind of still leads into the idea that it's all film focused. And so there's a kind of conscious effort I had a while ago that I was going to, if I post something, I'll try to make it around something, either, yes, if I'm world traveling, and then sure, but it would be around anytime I'm writing or making a movie, or if it's reading a book, which is anything artsy, I guess, in that sense. And then I've worked in the corporate world as well, and so kind of there has been times where in my mind I'm thinking about, I don't know if I should say that line of dialogue in this movie, or the kind of content that I like to create sometimes could be vulgar. And there's also just a decision a while ago, especially when I was coming into making Married and Loving It. I was like, you really just kind of, this is your brand of humor. You just need to own into it. You know, if George Carlin can go to Carnegie Hall with the, you know, why does nobody ever want to sleep with?
I think there's a spectrum on that too, though, because had Marrying and Loving It been seriously vulgar, I wouldn't have selected it.
Sure.
You know, it's one of the rules, but there is a level of vulgarity that is part of entertainment, and then there's one that is truly offensive, and those are ones that, your decision, if it's going to be very offensive, like racist or something like that, then no, you're not going to want to do that. Mm-hmm. But with kind of like what you were saying the last time, as well, where like somebody thinks this is funny and somebody doesn't, part of the art, which is very, it just depends on different people. It's very subjective. Object, as opposed to objective, and that's a big part of it. But I think there's a level of confidence that you have when you make the decision that you're going to brand yourself, where you have to definitely know, you sort of know, it kind of like branding a product, right? Your color schemes, the shapes, the textures, everything. What container, where you're going to sell this product, where it's going to live, what it's going to represent. There's so many different aspects to branding a product. And you almost have to sort of put yourself as a product, but realizing that you're a human being and that you're connecting with human beings at a human level,
Yeah.
And at that point, you're saying, all right, I'm a human, you're a human, we're connecting. And this is my brand. And my brand enables you to know more about who I am and what I do that you may connect with and you may come along for the ride,
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And so I think especially with Married Element, because I made a conscious decision to have a certain amount of like F words in the movie. Like I said earlier, like Lebowski is one of my favorite, and
like every other word in the kitchen.
Yeah. And Casino is one of my favorite movies, and it's just loaded with, a million F words. And so I made that decision, and then it was kind of like, well, I should just so that nobody else thinks that this movie is going to be like a nice, sweet kind of a thing. I'm just going to put that right. So I just started posting that as social media, just branding the F word kind of out there, and. And
branding the F word.
Yeah, and there was times I had, because I live in a area that was quite conservative, and so there's a few actors that I had to turn away because they didn't. I could tell that they were dropping when we're doing the line reading. They're dropping some of the cursing. Wow. And I was okay if they made a variation of it. I said, if you're not going to use the F word, if you say mother effer instead, that's fine. I just still want the word in there. And I had someone else call me, and they said that they didn't feel, they really liked the script, but they didn't see themselves cursing like that. And I told them that
they didn't see themselves playing a character that would curse like that.
Yeah. That's so interesting.
And that's kind of thing where it's kind of like, are you branding yourself as the character, or are you branding yourself as an artist? Because an artist, because at some point, like, somebody has to play the bad guy. Yeah. And I was just saying this the other day with some friends, like with the Lovely Bones, someone's got to play the killer.
I saw that.
In the
that was
movie.
Stanley Tucci, right?
Yeah.
And he was great.
So do I see him as being that person in real life? No, I see him as being an artist, because then I see him do other movies where he's not that character. Yeah. And so, but so I told the actor at the time that I appreciated them coming in and being forthcoming with me, but there's probably just gonna be another project down the road we'll have to work on, because it's not going to be this one.
Yeah.
Good for you.
And that's knowing your brand too.
Yeah. Good for you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I do remember, because I called my wife Brandy, and I was like, well, we had somebody, but I told her the story, and she was kind of like, what, you turned them away? And I was like, we're just gonna have to find someone. like the person who will come by who doesn't mind will come by, and I was able to find those people. Yeah. But as far as small branding thing, though, is there was about a year ago, I was at a restaurant, fast food chain, and my order got screwed up several times, and I was having a dispute with the manager. I didn't raise my voice to them or anything like that, but I did leave my contact information, because I wanted them to get back with me as far as refund, things like that. And then I went to the website of the restaurant, and I messaged the manager and told him the person that I had that confrontation with. And there's a review for my movie on IMDb, and it's written by this person, and they say like, that's too bad because I really met Ryan, but he didn't like me, and he wrote me a bad review. And I was like, that's interesting that like you took my name, you plugged it into the Googles, and I'm not very famous, but apparently I'm famous just enough that you can find my movie on IMDb. He watched it as well, and then let me know just how much he hates it. And I was like, well, at least I got a view out of it. But it was interesting how like in is little famous, like what little fame we have, people still can track us. Down.
Yeah. That's a thing that I've had to learn myself. I don't like people taking advantage of other people, and I've had issues with, like, say I'm out to dinner with a friend and somebody treats her like crap, or him, or whatever, and I have to hold myself back from trying to defend this person. How dare you? But when it comes to myself, I'm not a famous person, but I think part of my branding, one of the things that I learned about self-branding is thinking of your brand bigger than yourself. Because if you think of your brand bigger than you, you're able to kind of calm down, deal with an issue, and act like the lights are on you. This person may not know who you are today, while you're dealing with them. It could be, the plumber or somebody, right? That you're having a dispute or something like that. But tomorrow, the next day, next week, next month, whatever, they may find out about you somehow. They may bump into something, on social media or on the web or who knows what, and they may see you, and all of a sudden their perspective and how they see you and how they view you is how you treated them. So I always think of, like, use your brand for something good like that, to make it bigger than you, to the point, even though it is you and you're reflecting yourself, you want to reflect the best part of yourself. It's the packaging. And so you have to think about your brand as your packaging of who you are and how you reflect yourself. And that's a decision you have to make too. That now all of a sudden, I'm a brand, I'm a human, I'm a self-brand. And now I'm not just branding my project and disconnecting that from me. That is me. That is a part of me.
Yeah, but I think that's also the problem of what it is to be a creator in a new space, right? It's like by saying brand, by saying content, it's like it's just now it's a product, and I am a company when
I'm not a person anymore.
Yeah. So that's also,
and you have to be careful with that and not do that to yourself, though.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you can be a better person.
Oh no, definitely, I agree with that. I know that. I think I definitely had problems with Steph. She's like the business head of our thing when she started implementing things, and I kind of disagree simply because of the creator in me. And I've learned where I could concede and have a compromise with her. But ultimately, like in the back of my head, that still feels very weird to say like, oh, I'm a brand. Because I'm not. I'm a person.
Well, we were just doing this.
I know.
The last episode about defining your film versus your product.
Right. No, exactly. Right. So I think there is a line that I think now, because and I guess tying this back up with what we were saying earlier, I think the movie industry is very much dictated and run by executives, and it's for money.
Yeah.
It's about business. And people seem to forget that there are, like, when there's 5 blockbuster films every month, for 12 months, like it's not sustainable. And people forget that. I think that's why I think I was saying before, I really love Mission Impossible. I really love the whole thing, but I kind of want him to make a story that is like small town again and build it back up again, like a whole new arc where, if he's going to do this for the rest of his life, like, where is he going to go next, right? Like with everything that he's doing, it's at such a global scale, like the story, that it takes too much money, right? So same thing, right? So with the brand that goes that big, I think that the creator, like Tom Cruise, like if he were to start small again, where it's like a lot less stressful, he probably wouldn't, there'll be other avenues, other possible profitable avenues of inquiry in terms of storylines or whatever, right? So
I think the internet and the social media and all that organically gives everybody a chance to be a brand without being larger than life, you know, as far as like you can be self-branded and have a great following and have a great reputation and, you know, in what you do, and people following what you do because they like what you do and they like you and they connected and all these things. But at the same time, you don't need 1.4 million followers or something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, there's I mean, I'm not sure if this is off topic, but there's sort of a problem with that a little bit as well, because going off of sort of what Ryan was saying, where he went to the restaurant and had that experience and then, you know, the person left a bad review. I am vocally political, you know, and I lean a certain way. I'm definitely more liberal, and I have gotten in arguments with people on Twitter, which has then, because I'm a brand, you know, I have my film information posted on Twitter, and so like within the last 3 months, I was in an argument on Twitter, and then the next day I went and there were 2 1-star reviews on IMDb for Paralysis, and I was like, whoa, well that sucks that like me having a political opinion that's different than this person is going to affect my brand. And my producer was like, Levi, you need to make a burner account with something that's not your name if you want to have those political arguments, because it's affecting, you know, your film. And it sucks that I can't be 100% authentically myself, I guess, to a certain degree, unless I want to deal with the repercussions of an angry internet troll, you know?
Yeah, because not everybody is ethical or has morals. I mean, so one of the reasons why I think self-branding yourself as a creator, as a filmmaker in this industry, is it does help you with getting distribution for your projects as well. One of the things that distribution companies do, and I'm not talking about the larger than life companies, is that they look into the filmmaker, they look into your reputation, they Google you, they look at your social media, they see how active you are, they see everything, and they use that to make decisions on whether they're going to actually pick up your film or not. One of the things that I think is going to get more and more popular, Levi, you know, when I started Mobile Film Stories, right, .com.
Sure, yeah.
It was, the first streaming service for just mobile films and all of that stuff. And that was a white label OTT, which is over the top. And we didn't have subscriptions for it, because one of the things that we did was we were pretty transparent with everyone. We were offering to stream their films there, if you can remember this. And then we were going to give them 50% of the revenue that was generated from each pay-per-view, right? Instead of just getting people to subscribe for a price and then do it that way. That way, the filmmaker would say, oh, I'm getting 50% of the price that's set for my film to watch the film. I'm getting half of this. And then, you know, we were going to give people the report, and they were going to see it, and they were going to know how much is coming to them and all that stuff. Unfortunately, the mobile film world was not ready for that. They preferred YouTube and things like that. Yeah. But, you know, I think that with what's happening now, there is, and I think this is opening up even more, where you can self-distribute your film. And you can buy into, it is expensive, I'm not going to lie, but it is expensive to do it, to self-publish your videos. And it's also, Jason, it's also for music as well, for music streaming. And cool. And so one of the cool things about it, though, is that you can do it, and if you help build your brand, right, by the time you can start doing this, and you can grab, you know, a group of independent filmmakers and say, let's all pitch in together and do this on our own, you have a chance to not have to put your film on YouTube and make money with, try, I should say, through ads, because really the platform is the one that's going to make the money, not you.
Yeah.
And so this is something I'm, it's not a declaration or anything, but this is something that more and more independent filmmakers can look into doing. And it's part of your branding with your self-distribution, especially if you plan to make more films, and it's an opportunity there, because, Vimeo is doing this, right? They have a streaming service that's not just the regular Vimeo, that allows you to monetize your films. You know about this, right?
I actually did not.
I think it's called, it might be called OTT for Vimeo or something like that. But they do that. And then there are more and more companies out there that are offering, like the one that Joey, you brought this up last time, Indie Film Rights.
Yes.
And it's actually, I think it's Indie Rights, how they actually call themselves, the official name for them. But what they do is they're sort of the middle company that offers you distribution through all the other the OTT stuff, which is basically online streaming, is really what it is. And they also sometimes help you. You can hire somebody to book your film in a theater, and you'll have a little bit of time to have your film in a theater. But I think there's a lot of streaming options that are available to indie filmmakers that keep you from having to depend on other people, that are not willing to be transparent with you on the money that you're making, and meanwhile you're making them rich.
Yeah.
because for every you, there's a million yous.
Yeah. Right.
And that's how they do it. So, Hulu, Amazon, Netflix, is hard to get to. But all of those are available to indie filmmakers. But it does help to build your brand. It does help when you have, like if you go to one of the big film festivals and the distributors are there, they look into you. They look and they see, and when they are there, they see the audience and the audience reaction and how people liked your film, and that all plays into the selling of your work. And once you're in, you have a sort of open door to keep the connection open for your other projects.
Yeah.
I feel like I just gave you all a lesson, and now I'm going, all right.
Makes sense.
You're all sitting there
Branding.
Branding. It's good to do, but again, none of us are saying that you're trying to brand yourself like Tom Cruise or something like that, right? But that's a brand in itself. That it's like, geez, what else is? And Tom Cruise is an example of somebody who's been in so many different types of films, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Anybody got anything else to say?
I think no.
I think that was pretty good.
I think we covered it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we give, hopefully our listeners will get back to us and give us some feedback and say, that really helped me.
Yeah. I feel like it helped me a little bit.
My lesson on...
Yeah.
I guess I could have made this into a solo episode. No, I think your input inspired me, from the discussion that we did earlier in this episode. But I think it'll hopefully give our listeners a stepping stone, something to ponder on and watch what is happening with distribution. Go do some research online and start Googling these things and looking into, what can you do to not only to help yourself, but to help your community, of the other filmmakers. What can you do to help Levi and Joey and Jason and Ryan
and Susie?
And Susie, yes, exactly.
Susie loves to promote and help others.
And it's really that. I think for the people that aren't part of the industry of any sort of way, it's really just signal boosting. It's just promoting other people. Like, if your cousin is a filmmaker, like, help him out. He should be the first person. You should be his first fan. And you know, and even if it's like not good or not your genre, it's like, okay, here, you know, like, I get it, you know, but hey, maybe my friends might like it or something, you know. But it's
Guys,
usually
everybody's out there on social media. Like, does it hurt that much to just give somebody a like,
right? Or reshare, or you know,
or
like
repost or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, like, not everything is a personal statement from you. You know, I mean, I'll just go hard. I've had Facebook or Instagram go, okay, that's enough. That's enough. You've liked too much. For the sake of our community, we are
you must stop liking.
Wow.
I know. I've had that happen.
I've never had that.
Well,
but I will say, Susie, you are amazing at being an advocate for us. Like, I appreciate that anytime there's an update for Paralysis, you are one of the first people to share. And so thank you for that, because there are, you know, like, and I'm not gonna, but like, I mean, what Joey was saying, like, sometimes it's like, man, you're my family and you haven't reshared this, you know? Like,
Oh, they're the last.
You think they'd be the people to be the first ones, right?
Yeah.
No, it's like when I started my film festival. My family was at the very first film festival, they were like, yay. Then after that, it was like, oh no, God, Susie, no. You know, this isn't, you need something. You're not making millions off this. Yeah. I'm like, I'm not even making hundreds. Calm down.
Yeah.
You know, that's not the point.
The point is that it's the passion and the, you know,
It's who I am. And I think more people are starting to, I'm opening up my self-branding.
Yes.
It's opening up more to sharing with people that this is who I am, because I've, you know, I'm only going to live for 100 years.
I love that you've decided when your expiration will be.
When I was 17, I was like, I'm going to die young. And I'm still here. And I'm like, well, I guess I'm going to live 100 years.
Excellent.
I think that's what I said too, right? I was like planning. I'm like, you know what? 40 is good enough, right? And I'm like, God damn it. I guess I might as well go for the gold.
Might as well make it to 100.
You know, we're living in a time where I think most people are understanding that age doesn't really matter. What matters is who you are and what you stand for and the kind of person that you are. And just so that our listeners know, there's a reason that these panelists are here today. I've met most of them and had great, wonderful conversations with them. I've actually met all of them except for Joey in person, but I know these people and they're wonderful people, and that's why they're on this panel. That's why I love coming back with them. And as you heard in this episode, they have wonderful input and great perspectives, and they're also very giving people. So suck up everything you can from them and from this episode. And now, everybody, say goodbye to our listeners.
Bye.
Catch you next time.
Y'all.